My fiancé shattered my orbital bone and I almost lost my left eye. My fiancé caved my face in with his fist. They think I might lose my eye after surgery. I have been at my dad's house with our 2-year-old daughter. My dad is sick, so most of the time I am watching her alone, and it's been so hard because my orbital bone is shattered, so I can only reliably use one eye. I am in so much pain and so tired. I can't believe this happened to me. All I ever wanted was to feel appreciated. It was the last thing we were arguing about. I wanted to feel more seen in the relationship, and I felt hurt and haunted by his past problems.
If you like, you will never be happy ever again.
I'm so tired and sad. Comments.
Commenter 1. Svete arte.
You will be happy again, but you are experiencing a very normal emotional response to the trauma you endured. Did he get arrested? Do you have anyone besides your dad around? You need a tribe of supporters right now.
Commenter 2. Look at your child.
You are out, meaning she is as well. You might lose that eye, but you saved your daughter. Every time you doubt yourself, just look at her and know that you are strong. Update. For those who didn't get to read it, my fiancé, 28M, punched me, 31F, at least twice. I'm not sure if more because I think I may have blacked out, and I had to immediately be sent to my local ER and then transferred to a city hospital further away for emergency surgery. We have a 2-year-old daughter together that was napping in her room as this unfolded in our home. I wanted to say thank you so much for all the kind words and support. I am doing a lot better and have been working non-stop to pick up the pieces of my life and make sure my daughter feels safe and secure in this horrible time period. I felt bad I didn't get to respond to anyone, but my left eye right now is of very limited use. I would like to elaborate more on what happened for those who were concerned and reaching out to send support to me. We were arguing over almost everything this particular morning while my daughter was asleep, but it almost doesn't even matter at this point. Arguments that would just segue into more arguments all morning. I was so tired and frustrated and not backing down. I had been up most of the night and all morning so he could sleep and had to wake him up early before work to get insurance fixed for our daughter, and the process was like pulling teeth. He resented me so much the more I actively wanted to fix our problems, not only in our relationship but also as adults trying to stay functional. Everything from brushing his teeth, to constantly choosing watching porn instead of spending time with me and the baby, all the way to hanging up on her insurance directory. Everything was for me to rush in and fix him, and I just didn't want to anymore. I felt so constantly unseen. I buy him flowers or pick them myself while out on walks and make him bouquets all the time, and he has never done it once. He spent more time in our relationship actively flirting with other females, some of them being my own friends, one being a 17-year-old he met in a hentai server, instead of ever considering me or how I feel. I felt like I make everything beautiful around me, but I was destroyed and miserable in the process. He started taking a more active role as a father after I found out he was watching porn for hours daily while I desperately needed help with colic newborn, and I had a severe mental break and spent my first Mother's Day in a psych ward. He became incredibly thoughtful and active with our daughter from there on in, but paying attention to me was still always an afterthought. It came to the point it didn't matter to me anymore, and I think there was more resentment than love on both sides. One of the last things I said to him was I was refusing to walk away from the argument until he acknowledged how much I do and how little he contributes to bringing life into our small family. I was fuming at this point. He lost it immediately and screamed, "Why don't you just fucking leave already?" and began to break his desktop computer. When he grabbed the computer and ripped it out from under the desk to break it, he either purposely or accidentally knocked me backwards into a wooden table in the process. I got up and shoved him back, and we both began shoving each other. It was just a huge blur for me at these next few points, but the shoving and hitting continued from both of us at this point. The fight moved by his office door into the living room, and I fell backwards onto the couch right next to the door. I thought it was just over at this point as I just flailed backwards, but he raised his dominant hand up and punched me as hard as he could. I felt such an immediate heat and pain in my I have never felt before, and my vision went black. I screamed so badly from the pain, and before I could even process what happened, he took that time to rewind his fist back and punch me again, full force again. I was so terrified at this point, and I knew I was feeling pain I had never felt before my entire life. I don't remember much at this point, and it felt like a third-person experience. I remember being on my living room floor as he walked away and slammed his office door. I saw blood began gushing from my face and spewing into the hardwood floor, but I was incredibly dizzy and still couldn't figure out exactly what had happened to me. I heard him on the phone with police at this point, and I began shouting for help, saying I can't see and crying out in so much pain. He ignored pleas and stayed silent in his office for about another 10 minutes. I had to get up, but I was so dizzy and I couldn't see well at this point as blood was matted into my hair and dripping down to my neck and also from both my hands to my wrists. I was able to find my phone to call 911, and I told him I think he broke my nose because I couldn't feel my face and didn't realize the blood was actually coming from my eye socket. Police arrived while I was making the call, and he had slammed his office door so hard prior he was locked in the office and couldn't answer the door for police. I had found my way to the door while still losing a large amount of blood, and I was very dizzy and blinded. When I opened the door, the female officer started shouting and pulled me out immediately and called for EMS. He was arrested immediately and even laughed when he finally got his office door open, acting like it was so silly. My daughter, thank God, was asleep for this, but had woken up only about a minute before police arrived. They wanted me to go check on her, but I refused because I was absolutely drenched in blood. It was so much that police couldn't tell where my injury was either. I let them check on her while I washed up and hid the left side of my face with a large jacket hood so I didn't scare her. My orbital bone was completely shattered and I have been and out of consciousness before my emergency surgery. They let me take my daughter with me to the hospital and I gave up the exam bed for her to play, and I mainly focused on trying to keep her happy and calm, but I was so terrified. I wanted to sign myself out because I didn't have anyone to watch her for me, but they said they were certain I would be blind in my left eye soon if I left without getting help. My dad was able to show up and take my daughter for me, and both hospitals were so extremely kind and helpful to me. They even gave my dad a brand new child car seat so he could take her to his house. When I had surgery, the surgeon told my dad this was quite severe and I'm lucky to have my eyeball at all right now. There was a very large hole where he punched and I had bone fragments scattered across my face, into my cheek and nose, and also behind my eye socket. I still don't know fully what they did to repair my orbital bone, but I'm pretty sure they have to make a replicated part to repair the fracture since it was broken and smashed into pieces. The anesthesiologist asked if he shattered his knuckles during this and was surprised he didn't.
You will never go back.
I am working with a DV advocacy group who is helping make sure my medical forensic exam, but also the surgery information is showed to police and a judge, so he will have multiple felony charges. My eye will probably still be functional, but it'll never be the same again. I have been through so many emotions in this time period, but I do feel a sense of peace knowing this is permanent and I can move on now. My daughter and I were granted a standard 6-month restraining order from him, and I am ready to increase the time span, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I am still doing what I do, bringing beauty to everything around me. It's been raining and I brought my daughter outside with her raincoat and rain boots, and we followed a busy bumblebee around for an hour together while splashing in puddles. I am in severe pain, yes, but I will not let this sad excuse of a person make my daughter miss a single stride in her life right now when she needs stability and joy the most. She is doing very well, but I think she knows I'm injured. CPS has been alerted and I keep in touch with them to check in on us weekly so far. When she saw my face finally, she studied it briefly and brought her hand up to her eye and placed it there. My heart breaks for her more than it does for any physical pain I feel. I would lose both my eyes if it meant bringing her the safety and love into her life she needs more than ever right now. Sometimes at night I still feel the sadness creeping in, but I have been keeping myself busy in between resting. I also just cannot forget how cruel so many of his actions were that day. He didn't even tell the police I was injured. He saw blood spew from my eye and walked away from me. He deliberately wounded his fist back an additional time to make sure I was deeply maimed by him. No matter how many ways I try to think about it, I cannot find a way to explain this one away in my head like I have many of his past blunders and warning signs. 2 months ago, he had his therapist remove his anger disorder from his mental health diagnosis. He broke hundreds of dollars of things in the past and would make verbal threats at me, with the most sincere anger in his eyes that really used to scare me a lot. He never cared. He cared that I was a convenience enough to keep around, and only cared if I interrupted this easily accessible life convenience. I was a commodity to him, and that's why it was so easy for him to break my face like a child angry at a toy and walk away to leave me to bleed alone on the ground.
You will never forget.
This is the most dangerous and costly lesson I have ever experienced on how important it is to advocate for my own inner peace and learn to stand up for myself enough to leave when it was being disrupted, that I love myself, and that I have value that deserves to be reciprocated instead of neglected. I will never let it go this far ever again, and I love myself right now more than I ever have my entire life, and that he will never be able to take this away from me ever again. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm so glad you're out and beginning to heal. Where is he? Still in jail? He's a very dangerous person. His next play will be to try to take your child away from you and get you declared an unfit mother. You need to talk to a lawyer and be proactive.
You need to be documenting everything.
Be prepared for him to try to physically take her from you if there's no custody agreement. It's in your best interest to go before a judge while you look like crap. You don't want him to be able to downplay your injuries. Get an order of protection to keep him away from you, your daughter, and your family, if you can. If you have any financial ties, he'll also try to screw you financially. So make sure your accounts are locked down. Are you renting or do you own the house? If you own, who is on the lease? You need to get on top of that now. Finally, talk to your boss and HR. They need to know what's happening. He will probably try to get you fired. Wouldn't hurt to let his boss and HR know what's happening. You don't want him to get fired because you want him to be able to pay child support. Not that he will willingly, but they need to know what kind of unstable man works for them. Before you do that, though, talk to your lawyer. You don't need to be seen as vindictive before the custody hearing. Op. He is out right now and I don't know where, but it's not our home because the police told him if he returns there he will be arrested. He went to my mom's house initially for help once he was cut loose. He asked to live with her, asked her for money, and in the same breath, said I had choked him and I deserved what happened to me. I let my mom give him gas money when she told me and sent him on his way. He tried to get housing with social services but omitted that he beat me, and once they found out, they removed him from whatever temporary place they had him housed. He left a message to friends in a communal forum server saying things will blow over in a month. He also omitted he beat me in that post too. He said the same thing to our landlord as well, and again I've had to either tell people he beat me or they just see me and I have no choice but to explain it. He had no injuries on him and it's been noted by police who took him in. They examined him for choking and it's been unfounded, and the officer who helped me told me she knows I didn't do that and knows he is lying and it will weigh against him badly. I have been keeping evidence of everything. It's not going to be an easy battle at all once custody hearing starts. I sucker punched him and gave him a cut on his lip the day I was sent to the psych ward and missed Mother's Day. I have to refrain elaborating why that incident happened, but all I can say is it was something beyond severe and they believe me, and this time they seized his computer and phone to search for what I had warned law enforcement about the day they psyched me. If anyone reading this wants elaboration on that DV incident where I was a perpetrator of a punch and I became psyched, I will absolutely share in PMs. But yes, I think some of the things I discovered that lead to the DV event were him actively speaking on and showing heavy interest in illegal things such as pro-pedophilia remarks and incestuous remarks about his younger sisters. But they didn't seize his computer or phone that day, but they really should have. They seem to have read back to that old case and believe me this time. They asked for the screenshots of what flew me into a psychotic break. It's going to be really hard for me to explain and discuss it in court, and I'm being given a lawyer, so I will have to have them help me make my screenshots of evidence from that night clear and comprehensive. It's shameful I did what I did, and I don't excuse myself for busting his lip prior no matter what I witnessed on his electronic devices, and now I will have to fight even harder and it'll look bad. I will have to do everything I can to fight for my daughter's safety. Both CPS and law enforcement are asking for my evidence from that incident, so I think they understand and believe me I discovered horrible things. I'm thankful they reached out to ask for the evidence. I also have evidence he was in contact with a 17-year-old in a pornographic forum server and was flirting with her. It should have never went this far for either of us. I was incredibly reluctant to return to the home and keep parenting together after the psych ward incident, but both our families asked me to give him a chance and get him in therapy for his anger and sexual mental issues. He asked me to delete the evidence of his sexual deviancies several times, but I refused to, and now I am so thankful I never did. His therapist did reach out and disclose to me recently that he has been omitting these things in therapy, however, both the sexual and anger issues, and she did say she was extremely concerned about this as well. He is very dangerous right now, especially with a lack of remorse and so many different scary facets that I really have to fight as hard as I can for my daughter to be safe. I feel so much disappointment in myself that my entire being back during the first physical incident that I messed up so badly and I didn't just leave. It's clearly something I will have to show the court. I have heavily worked on resolving my mental health issues since then, and I've been consistent and steered clear of reacting with physical rage ever again. I am angry at myself that my foolish past outburst will likely be now discussed. I can't stop being angry at myself for it right now. Commenter 2. He went to your mother for help. Just because he's delusional. My mother would have met him with a shotgun. Commenter 3. You can say he's a pedophile and that you found CSA material. We already hate him. Op. More complex, and it made me so fucked up in the head for a while, and I knew I should have moved out and just ended it, but both our parents were putting a lot of pressure on me to forgive and give him a chance in therapy. It was all text-based crap he was saying online, but it makes my stomach churn reading it, especially the stuff about his poor sisters. Like just the most gross, insane things you could think to say, and he would say it in all these public spaces I discovered. I was so beyond upset I felt like I had stepped into a complete nightmare realm. I suspected the severe porn addiction, but never the rest of it. My parents were saying I will destroy my daughter's life so badly if I leave and didn't offer me much emotional support in this time, so I felt really ostracized and had almost no support or aid to help me make a smart choice for my daughter. He also seemed severely apologetic and said a lot of it was just stuff in his head from porn addiction, but specifically the anime stuff that highlighted these gross fetish cultures. I can't even watch a nice anime anymore ever since I read the shit, and I became so fucking miserable returning home. My family set up a small return party for me, and honestly when they all left I sobbed for hours, and it continued in waves for months. Just scared and inconsolable. He started out incredibly sympathetic to my emotions and fears, and let me establish a lot of boundaries that made me feel a little better, but as time went on he cared less and less if I was sad about it and acted pissed off that I was still hurting from it. I haven't talked to my dad about any of this since it happened because I think he feels shattered and guilty for changing my mind, and I don't want to make his emotional turmoil any worse than it has to be. So many selfish decisions my ex-fiancé made that shattered apart what could have been a very healthy and happy family. It feels like my heart was ripped out ever since that day onwards. The choice to stay was very scary for me, and now I feel so stupid it didn't even work in anyone's favor anyways. I just wanted to keep together the tiny family we had just created and believe in him. It's going to be a really grueling time when this has to all be put forward into consideration for my poor daughter. I cry for her so much.
Commenter 4. Please don't beat yourself up.
Relationships are never easy, especially when you're the one with the bigger heart, the one with more empathy.
The one who's not a total fucking psycho.
The near future will be hard, but one day you and your daughter will be past all this. There is more beauty for you. Stay strong. Commenter 5. I'm so sorry to say this, but have you considered the possibility he may have assaulted your daughter? I considered this, which is horrible, but I had postpartum anxiety right out the gate and she was always well examined by me and I remained incredibly hypervigilant about it. It's really sickening I had to even feel that way. I don't think he ever did, and I was always on her like a hawk and she was heavily watched and from day one. I feel like it's hard for me to trust anyone though, and I always feel stressed out and exhausted from it. Learning to be more laid back is going to take a very long time for me. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not letting my husband use airline credit for a coworker? My husband and I got married 2 years ago during the middle of COVID lockdown. We were to go to France and Germany for our honeymoon. We saved for the tickets, and to be honest, I paid for most of them. This is both a second marriage, both 43, and our finances have stayed separate for the most part due to my insistence. We have tried to go 3 times to our honeymoon, and lockdowns or illnesses have left us stateside. My husband is very well traveled, and I haven't been to many places. I have tried to talk to him about using the credit to go somewhere in the States, but he insists we wait. He is stingy on money, and I have paid the majority of every travel we have done, which is mostly with my children. He has made me feel really bad about wanting to change the plans because he says it's giving up on our honeymoon. I haven't been anywhere, and even going to a coast would be amazing. Today when I got home from work, he said he had a coworker, 25, who is stuck in Florida on vacation due to a flood that happened there recently. He says her car was totaled and has no way to get back to work or job. He offered to fly her back with our credit. I was dumbfounded. I asked if we will be paid back, and he shrugged and said he doesn't feel like she needs to because she is going to RN school. I am an RN and I would hard for every dime I make working in ICU. He didn't ask me to use the credit. He assumed I would be fine with it. It only came up in conversation about how crazy his day was. AML the a-hole for saying no to use the credit on a coworker? AML the a-hole for feeling like he cared more for this woman than me? Update. Thought this would be an appropriate place for this. I have posted it a couple times, but always taken down due to the topic of DV. I think it's a reminder that we don't get whole story, as I definitely didn't. Just logged into an old computer and found this account that I no longer use. I had completely forgotten about it, and honestly have only a vague recollection of posting it due to circumstances I will get into. The marriage ended right after this. It looks like this is almost 3 years old, and I have been away from this man as of 3 years in July 2025. This was one of the last arguments we had. He told me I was very uncaring about the stranger in Florida, and if I was a nice person, money would be no object to get her. He then strangled me to the ground and I passed out. By this point in the marriage, I handed him my phone when I got home from work, and he would give it to me when I left for work. I tried to leave several times each time I came back. When I wrote this post, I was downloading the audiobook, Why Does He Do That? by Bancroft and then deleting it each evening before I handed my phone to him.
This book saved my life.
It gave me the courage to try to get away and understand that he wasn't going to change. He had choked me several times, and he was physically abusive by this point to your marriage. I had glass in my foot, and had half my hearing from a busted eardrum in my right ear. So about a week after this post, I went to get the mail, something I was not allowed to do, but something told me I needed to. In the mailbox was a $35,000 check for my inheritance of my aunt. I stuffed it in my panties and it stayed there until the next day. I was slowly gathered my dog, purse and documents for an opportunity to leave. He had to leave for 2 hours for work and I called my daughter and she came to pick me up. I didn't even have shoes on, I was so anxious. That was July 1st, 2022. I'll save you all the work it took to get to where I am today, but I will say that my life is good. My life is joyous. My life is safe and peaceful. I'm officially divorced and it took 2 years of him kicking and screaming to do that. He has yet to pay me a dime for the house that I bought and I don't expect to see it as he is in contempt. Thank you so much for the advice that you gave me that day. I am not sure if he was having an affair with that woman or not. Most likely he was getting to the point where he was. All evidence point to that. I don't care though, I was so far gone that I don't even remember the post. It was like complaining about the smell of smoke when your whole house is on fire. Thank you again for being so gentle with me. To the woman who told me to use the credit and go to the coast a year ago, I did. I took one of my daughters and we went to Oregon and Washington. We hiked. We sunbathed on the beach.
We hockey-olded.
We did all the things. I don't have any ambition to go to Paris or Germany. It was never my dream. Again, thank you so much for all the support you gave me 3 years ago.